Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick comparison between the Sony CyberShot RX0 Mark II and the DJI Osmo Pocket. Now these are two very different cameras in that one occupies a space really that no other product does, but that's what they actually share in common. So does the DJI Osmo Pocket. I say that because at $700 US, the RX0 Mark II has a 1-inch sensor capable of 15 megapixel stills, internal 4K video recording at 30 frames per second. Very impressive hardware, a little flip around screen. It's even got a mic jack. Micro SD card slot. Just an amazing little rugged, crush-proof camera that really is more of a video camera than a camera. Menu system, far from perfect. No continuous autofocus, which is really its biggest pitfall. Fixed 24mm lens there, that is a 35mm equivalent f4. The lens is good, the stills are good, but the video is really where the RX0 Mark II shines. Here, with the Osmo Pocket, we have a considerably smaller sensor, similar to what you'd find in a current gen smartphone, but what we do have is another thing the RX0 Mark II is missing other than continuous autofocus. We do have continuous autofocus here, but we also have stabilization that we do not have here. So the RX0 Mark II has stabilization. It has traditional steady shot, but that really doesn't do much. So while the RX0 Mark II comes in a vlogging bundle, in fact, that's what Sony sent to me for review purposes, it's not really ideal for vlogging because between the lack of true stabilization that you would need for vlogging and the lack of continuous autofocus, another thing you might need for vlogging, but don't necessarily have to have it, you have both of those things here because this gimbal is both. It's a camera and a gimbal. And if you decide to pony up extra money, you can get a dedicated control like I have right here. You have a screen so you can see what you're filming just as you can with this. Of course, it is smaller, but not by much. And there are a lot more features built into the Osmo Pocket than there are into the RX0 Mark II. And you might be wondering, why would I compare the Osmo Pocket to the RX0 Mark II rather than the Osmo Action? There's a very good reason for that. In my opinion, the Osmo Pocket achieves what I think the RX0 Mark II needs to aspire to, which is how do we get these two products to have a child? And I'm totally serious. How do we get Sony to make an RX0 Mark II in this form factor? Or a Mark III, a Mark whatever it's going to be. How do we make that happen? Because if you can take what Sony's done here, and I don't need it to be crush-proof and water-resistant and dust-resistant, it would be nice. I don't need that. It's not going to be likely, though, once we have a gimbal. But if they can somehow marry the concepts of these two, you have something that I think everybody is going to want to hand over their cash for. And hopefully that's what DJI does with their next revision of this product. Because while it's capable of taking stills, the stills are pretty much, they could be inferior to your phone depending on what your phone model is. In my case, the Note 10 Plus outperforms this. Now on the video side, it doesn't. And that's because what other pocketable gimbal is there? Do I own? Zero. And the Osmo Action, if I were to compare it to this, it's really not comparable because the Osmo Action, it's literally just an action camera, and the video that comes out of this is in a whole nother league. Now, the video that comes out of this is also in another league, even though it's got a tiny sensor, in fact, the same one as the Osmo Action, because it's got built-in stabilization, that makes for video quality that just doesn't exist in the Osmo Action realm or any action camera's realm. That does come, though, at the expense of having a narrow field. The Osmo Pocket, unfortunately, pretty narrow. So I'm hoping that when DJI revises this, gives us a second gen of the Pocket, we do get a wider angle, but I'm not really too concerned. I would rather see them, I'd like to see the wide angle, but rather than getting a wider angle, I'd like a larger sensor. Again, if we can somehow marry these two concepts, with or without the weatherproofing. And I know, having a mic jack on the RX0 Mark II, people would love to have a microphone jack here on the Osmo Pocket. If we could somehow make this happen, I mean, they both take micro SD cards, they both shoot 4K video, they both shoot stills. This has a little more feature-rich stuff going on with the application, but you don't need to use the application. DJI has updated it enough that you can do everything through the Osmo Pocket itself. I just marry these, and I think you've got the perfect little saleable travel camera that everybody would want. It's not an RX100, but it won't be priced like one. Well, actually, it might be. But if you were able to combine these two products and offer it to me at $1,000, and I know I'm setting the price pretty high, but be realistic. Sony's selling this for $700. DJI is selling this for $350 without any accessories. Add in the accessories like these two, which are must-haves, the wireless base and the control, and you're already, getting closer to RX0 Mark II money. So basically what I'm getting at here is that I can't really imagine these two combining and giving us the gimbal with the 1-inch and, the overall better optics, better everything that Sony could provide. And DJI may try to knock it off. They may just do this on their own. That's likely what they will do, and come out with a product that is probably, $700, something like that. Take my money. I will hand it over. Now, if Sony were to make it, then it's not just because of the name. It's because of they are the boss right now in DI. There's no one doing it better, folks. That's where take my money, no question about it. If you even come in at $1,000, I'll be there. I'll be there, happy to hand it over and retire this, not think about this anymore, because all of a sudden I've got the best of both worlds. And it could even be an attachment, Sony. It could be an attachment. It could be some sort of gimbal that you create, cut a little deal with DJI or make your own, however you want to do it. Turn the RX0 Mark III into, a Pocket-esque, aka DJI Osmo Pocket-esque experience that's modular. So this way, people who don't care about the gimbal, although I think everyone should care about that, unless they actually do end up throwing stabilization in here that rivals action cameras. If it's modular, then you got the option. Keep this at $700, make the gimbal a $300 accessory, or even a $400 accessory, but make it so that it's still pocketable. And I think you have one of the most amazing products ever, because these are two of my favorites out there in terms of technology in DI that just, it wows you what they're capable of, especially in their size, their form factor. I mean, here's just a lens for comparison, a full frame lens. Here's an RX100, again, just for comparison. I mean, these are both incredibly easy to get in a pocket. This is starting to get tight. So if you can somehow marry these two, it's fantastic. Now, this video was supposed to be just a comparison, and from a comparison standpoint, I'll take the Osmo Pocket every day, all day, because of that stabilization. Because I get cinematic footage out of this. In low light, does it fall apart? Yes. This will not fall apart as much, but the lack of continuous autofocus, the lack of stabilization, it's out of the picture. It's that simple. And I know that if I'm going to be in low light, then I need a real gimbal if I want to achieve what this does, and I need a real camera. That's why if Sony or DJI, hope both are listening, maybe, are smart enough to merge this concept, you got it. I mean, this will be a killer product that, as I said earlier, everybody would want it. I mean, digital camera, it's a autonomous cameraman. I mean, with the tracking that the Osmo Pocket has right now, once you slap it onto this, it'll follow you around a room. You have a little camera person tracking you. You don't need a slider system. You don't need a lot of these, products that are coming out. It's here in the Osmo Pocket. Merge it with the fidelity of the RX0 Mark II's sensor and lens. Holy crap. That's all I can say. So again, Osmo Pocket all day, every day for me right now in this comparison. That, of course, would be different if we had better stabilization here and continuous autofocus. And if somehow they managed to put an internal zoom in either of these, again, holy crap, you're changing the whole game. You're flipping it on its head. But that's my comparison. So if you're wondering which one is better, I personally, I'm all day Osmo Pocket, as I've said over and over again. But the RX0 Mark III, it could be coming out in the end of first quarter 2020 or second quarter. If they do that and they bring some true stabilization and continuous autofocus, then I would take the RX0 Mark III over the Osmo Pocket, because it will be able to do things that the Osmo Pocket simply cannot dream of. And that's where the only thing the Osmo Pocket will have on it is the built-in gimbal, or the gimbal that it is inherently as part of its design. And also the fact that the batteries built in here are certainly not an advantage. Here, you can have spare batteries, pop them in, you're good to go. Here, once it's dead, I mean, you can connect it to a battery bank, but that is all kinds of stupid if you're trying to keep things small, right? I'd rather have extra batteries than a battery bank, but the same can be done with the RX0. So it's really a matter of personal preference. But again, video and stills out of this inherently are better, but when you combine that gimbal capability here with the Osmo Pocket, I mean, it's just, I've compared them side by side, and in bright daylight, even though you've got more dynamic range and a better sensor here and better optics, the Osmo Pocket, especially with filters, it looks fantastic. And to especially the average person, there is going to be a negligible difference, if any at all. That pretty much covers it. Again, just wanted to compare these and talk about the possible marriage. Again, hopefully Sony or DJI is watching and listening, because you have the chance, without paying me a single cent, to make the most amazing piece of hardware if somehow these two combine to become a reality. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.